are apologies enough, Senator Hawley?
No, they're not enough. I mean, that was a significant moment. I think it's the first time, maybe ever in public at least, that Mark Zuckerberg has been forced to look into the eyes of parents whose lives and families he's ruined, to be honest. And not just ruined, he's made a gob of money. I mean, billions of dollars he's made off of, in many instances, exploiting kids, exploiting children, pushing this false gender ideology on his platform. Facebook met a huge villain in this story in terms of what they have pushed out to young women in particular. And it's not enough just to say, I'm sorry. We need to give victims the right to hold companies like Meta accountable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gains for Girls podcast. We have had an exciting week, actually. Monday's episode talked about all things pregnancy. Wednesday, earlier this week, we had Senator Daines on, and now we are having another senator on, one of my favorite, actually. My brother worked for this senator over, I think, last summer. It's just a little intern, whatever he needed to do during his campaign. And he confirmed to me what I already knew, truthfully. I've spent an ample amount of time around the senator, but my brother says, look, he's just the most down-to-earth, greatest guy. If this gives you any hint who it is, he had Harrison Butker going around with them that day. My brother said it was the most amazing experience of his life. We'll talk about that. But before we do, I want to tell you, number one, go to youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you can find all things Gains for Girls. Like, comment, subscribe. If you missed an episode, one of the episodes from earlier this week, I would encourage you to go back and listen to them. Watch them. Actually, if you watch them, you can see my brand new studio. We've had it for the past few episodes, but loving it. Of course, looks more professional. Very, very excited about that. Want you guys to see it. So go to youtube.com/OutKick. And I want to tell you about today's sponsor. It is Cozy Earth. Fantastic. My husband was on Monday's episode with me. He talked about it as well. The most amazing bamboo sheets. They are made from viscose from bamboo, meaning they regulate temperature. They're guaranteed to give you a comfortable night's sleep. They naturally wick away any sort of heat or moisture from your body, helping you sleep several degrees cooler, which, of course, it's the middle of June, almost end of June at this point. Crazy how fast this month has passed by. This stuff is amazing. Go to CozyEarth.com. Check it out. They also have loungewear, pajamas. I mentioned several times, I've got my dad the all-day tee and the studio pant for Father's Day, which he loves. So again, CozyEarth.com. Use my code GAINS, GAINES, for 40% off. We are talking to Senator Hawley today. As I think I say it in this episode, actually, every time he is behind, sitting in his chair and you've got witnesses up there, he has the most fantastic line of questioning. Really, really great. He always gets them on the spot to where, of course, they don't know really what to say back. He does it so well, but he's not one just for the viral sound bites or the clips. He's actually getting stuff done, which is rare in Washington, D.C., by the way. We're talking about his new legislation to protect kids from online porn. We're talking about the LA riots, his involvement there. We're talking about a pro-family economy under President Trump. So check out all of that and more with Senator Hawley right here. Well, Senator Hawley, thank you so much for joining the Gains for Girls podcast. Just very excited for the opportunity to talk with you. You have been someone who has, of course, been incredibly fierce on the issues that I care about, the platform that I now have, the issues that I have found myself fighting, but across the board, really one of our greatest freedom fighters in Washington, D.C. So very grateful for you. Before we get into anything, we had Senator Daines on the podcast earlier this week, and I asked him, of course, about the big, beautiful bill. From your perspective, where do things stand, and how do you feel about it all?
Well, I think the most important things in the big, beautiful bill are those big, beautiful tax cuts for working people and families. And congratulations on your news, by the way. That's terrific. And what we ought to do is what the president has said we should do, which is give every working family in this country a tax cut. And if you've got kids you ought to get a tax cut. If you're expecting kids, you ought to get a tax cut. And one of the best things that the president has proposed to do in this bill is to make the child tax cut even bigger for every working family in this country. No taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. And this is stuff that will really help working people immediately, right away. And for my money, that's the centerpiece of this bill. I think it's the most important thing we can do in this legislation is to really help working families get their feet under them.
Yeah, I don't know who could oppose that. What's the next step in advancement for this bill?
Well, the Senate will hopefully vote on it here in the next week or two, and then it's back to the House and then hopefully off to the president. So, I mean, I hope this process will move really quickly. I mean, my view is the president has done so much by executive order. And of course, a lot of that in the areas that you care most about. I mean, protecting women's sports, getting rid of this crazy gender ideology that's out there. He has done tremendous work by executive order. The Congress needs to come alongside now and actually legislate. I mean, we need to make this stuff permanent. We need to write it into law. So my perspective is the quicker we move on this bill, the better. There is a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of all the insane gender stuff that has really plagued this nation, you really have been one of the best in terms of line of questioning when you have these people in front of you, whether it's NCAA President Charlie Baker, whether it's the president of the Human Rights Campaign, president of the National Women's Law Center. You really just have such a way of this. Unfortunately, we are seeing these blue states continue to double down on these regressive and discriminatory and harmful policies, even, and of course, including, I believe most insidiously, allowing minors to undergo irreversible procedures without parental consent. How dangerous is this? Of course, you hear from people all the time. And what can we do as citizens, and what can you all do in your position to help push back against this?
Extremely dangerous. I mean, there's nothing that is worse, as you just said, than having a minor child have their body completely altered, be sterilized for life. In the state of Missouri, where I'm from, we have banned that. We have banned all of these so-called gender transition surgeries and treatments for minors. And I'd like to see that become a federal rule. I mean, it just ought to be a across-the-board nationwide rule that you cannot sterilize a minor. I mean, this is just wrong. It's just morally wrong. It's wrong in every sense of the word. What can we do about the blue states who are defying the law? I think that the administration is right to have the Department of Justice go after them. I mean, why are they getting federal funding? Why are they getting Title IX funding for women's sports if they are destroying women's sports by putting biological men into women's locker rooms, into women's competitions? So they ought to get all of their federal funding for their universities yanked. They ought to get their Title IX funding revoked. We ought to pass a law nationwide that says no gender transition surgeries for minors. I tell you the other thing we ought to do, Riley, that would be big, and that is give every victim of the gender transition racket, every victim who has been sterilized, who has been drugged, give them the chance to sue the doctors or the companies who put them through those procedures. I mean, that would be a game changer. That would put power directly into the hands of victims, into the hands of individuals. If we did that nationally, I believe we would make a huge, huge dent in the gender transition industry, which is making gobs of money by sterilizing our kids. We need to put a stop to it.
Yeah, no doubt. I've talked to, seriously, hundreds of what they call themselves detransitioners. Minors oftentimes who were coaxed, who were vulnerable in a vulnerable state and believed the lies that they were told by their healthcare providers. I prefer the term unregulated butchery providers, oftentimes removing, body parts, of course, being administered and taking synthetic, unnatural hormones irreversibly. Really, really tragic stuff. I believe an important part to this would be to increase the statute of limitations to oftentimes, again, especially when you're doing this at 15, 16 years old, you don't realize the harm it has done. People like Chloe Cole, who I know you know very well, she describes it as she did this at 15, 16 years old. She woke up one random morning and realized she did have a maternal instinct. But at that point, there's no telling what this has done to her fertility. Of course, having your breast removed, at that point you cannot breastfeed. So increasing the statute of limitations, and I certainly agree, going after these healthcare providers, insurance companies, anyone that is allowing for this, and I think especially those who are attempting to silence those voices. I could not agree more. And speaking of, you've just recently introduced crucial legislation, bipartisan, by the way, to protect kids from online porn. But speaking of giving power back to the victims, I remember this hearing just about 2 years ago, I believe, where Mark Zuckerberg sat in front of your committee. Again, you were questioning him, and you had asked him, have you apologized? And he's taken aback. Of course, I don't think he was prepared to answer this question. It wasn't scripted. He didn't know what to say to this. And he almost forcibly, you forced his hand, you held his feet to the fire. He stood up. He saw the victims behind him who have been exploited by Meta. I think we've got a clip of it. Let's refresh everyone's memory really quick.
Didn't take any action. You didn't take any action. You didn't fire anybody. You haven't compensated a single victim. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
I'm sorry for everything that you have all gone through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that you're.
Remarkable, really, that he was in this position, forced, I believe, to do this. I don't think he would have done it otherwise. But are apologies enough, Senator Hawley?
No, they're not enough. I mean, that was a significant moment. I think it's the first time, maybe ever in public at least, that Mark Zuckerberg has been forced to look into the eyes of parents whose lives and families he's ruined, to be honest. And not just ruined, he's made a gob of money. I mean, billions of dollars he's made off of, in many instances, exploiting kids, exploiting children, pushing this false gender ideology on his platform. Facebook met a huge villain in this story in terms of what they have pushed out to young women in particular. And it's not enough just to say, I'm sorry. We need to give victims the right to hold companies like Meta accountable. I mean, right now, as you know, if you're a victim, if you've got, there's deep fake porn of you that someone has made with AI out there. If you've been a victim of child porn and other ways, sexual exploitation, you can't do anything about it. If Meta is hosting that stuff and you go to them and you say, hey, this is fake, or this is me being exploited, please take it down. And if they just say, no, we'd rather not, you're stuck. And that happens over and over and over. We need to give victims and parents the right to hold these companies accountable. And the way you do that is you allow them to get into court, and you allow them to sue these people like Zuckerberg, and you allow them to get compensated. An apology is nice, compensation is better, and the best thing of all is changed behavior. And these companies won't change. They won't stop pushing this gender ideology garbage. They won't stop with the child sexual exploitation material on their platforms until they feel the pain. So we got to give victims rights.
This past week, I went to Texas and I got to meet and spend some time with Elliston Berry, who was really the inspiration for the Take It Down Act. Met her family, just so sad. Victim is a really good word to describe what her and her family, the situation that they have faced and continue to face even since. But as I said, you have recently introduced bipartisan legislation. Can you talk about this? And I think specifically how your home state of Missouri at the state level has been a leader on this issue. You guys have a fantastic attorney general who sues at every chance he can get, which I think is, of course, the purpose of his job. But he does a really great job, and I believe is the gold star AG for all AGs to follow.
I agree with that 100%. He's absolutely terrific, and I'm really proud of our state and what we've done in terms of protecting kids, protecting women's sports. When it comes to child porn online, child sex abuse material, what my bill would do at the national level is, for the first time ever, it would create a right to sue if you're a victim or if you're the parent of a victim. So if you're somebody out there, and again, there's deep fake porn of you, or if there's been material made that is about sexual exploitation involving you, or that's happened to your kid, you now can go and sue the companies that put this stuff on their platforms. We're talking about Instagram, we're talking about Google, we're talking about Meta, of course, that owns Instagram, all of them. All of these social media companies, they won't be able to look the other way anymore. What happens now is, so many times, I've heard this, I can't tell you how many times, parents and victims will go to them and they'll say, this stuff is on your platform, please take it down. And they just don't do it. They say, well, we're not sure, we'll review it, we'll get back to you later. This legislation, for the first time ever, gives victims and parents the right to hold them accountable. It is way overdue, and I believe it will be a huge game changer in protecting our kids and protecting young women in particular and giving power back to individuals to control their own lives.
No doubt. Obviously not near as severe, but I have approached Meta, reached out several times about fake accounts that are being ran out of like Bangladesh who are scamming people. I mean, I have proof that they're taking, these people running these accounts are taking money from people, promising that they're me. They have hundreds of thousands of followers, telling people they're in these really dire situations and we can't escape if we don't have money, this, and this. Meta has done absolutely nothing about it. So the idea of accountability is fantastic. And again, I would imagine why there was bipartisan support there. One other thing that you have done recently, of course, LA is back in the headlines, this time with the riots tied to ICE enforcement of violent, criminal, illegal immigrants. But you have launched an investigation into who is funding these riots in LA. Can you share any insight into speculations, what has already been proven, or even the necessity for this?
Well, I think it's clear we got to find out who's doing this. I mean, these riots aren't spontaneous. I mean, that's obvious. I like to joke that they're about as organic as AstroTurf. I mean, it's 100% fake. It's 100% paid for. It's 100% organized. And we know it because you've got lefty groups online claiming it. They're bragging about it. They're saying, oh, yeah, this is great. We're organizing these riots. We're helping fund them. We've all seen the videos of people pulling up and handing out riot gear and gas masks and other material just before a car explodes. You know, none of that is happenstance. It's not an accident. It's all planned. So what I've said is we need to get to the bottom of who is behind this, who's funding it. These are bought and paid for flash mobs, and I want to know who's doing the buying and the paying. So we've launched a full-scale investigation in the Senate. We'll work with the Department of Justice. They recently, just in the last few days, launched their own investigation. The president announced it, actually, which is terrific. And I can tell you, we've already sent investigative demands to 3 different groups, front groups, who have been out there on social media talking about their role in these riots. And now, of course, they're trying to expand them. And they've tried to expand them into Missouri. They're trying to expand them into other states. We need to nip this in the bud. And the way you do it is figure out who's financing it. And then where you can, hold people accountable by prosecuting them. That'll be the Justice Department's role. And I hope that we can continue to work closely with Justice. And I can tell you, any evidence that we have of crimes, we will absolutely refer to the Justice Department for prosecution, because we have got to shut down the criminal element here that's trying to burn our cities to the ground, literally, right in front of our eyes. We have to put a stop to that.
No doubt. It's what the American people voted for, overwhelmingly voted for, and not just in the presidential election, across the board in November of last year. We voted for transparency, and that's what this is. So thank you. Last thing for you. I saw the photo over the weekend on X of you with your beautiful daughter that you posted for Father's Day, where you say, of course, there's no greater joy than being a dad. My husband and I, as you alluded to, we are about to welcome a little girl into this world. Can you talk about how the Trump administration is building a pro-family culture and economy?
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations again. It's just there's nothing better in life or more significant than having children and raising children. And I said right around Father's Day to all the young men out there, you want to do something with your life that's meaningful, and go get married and have a family, raise a family, raise a kids with the love of your life. You'll never regret it. And it's just, to me, it's the most important thing. I know it'll be the most important thing that I do with my life by far, and the most meaningful thing by far. I think in terms of what we can do in policy and what the president's doing, is we've got to create an economy out there where if you are a young family, you can afford to have kids, you can afford to get childcare or health care rather for your kids, and you can afford to raise them. And we need to get good jobs for people where they can support their family on the wage that they earn, where they don't need constant help from the government, where they don't have to work multiple jobs, where you can support a family on a good wage. So the things we were talking about earlier that the president has proposed are so key. Those tax cuts for working people, no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. That really helps people who are working. They're getting started in life, or maybe they're far along in life and they're like, man, I'm going to put in some overtime. I've got a kid on the way. That's a huge help to them. Increasing the child tax cut is a big deal. I mean, we ought to give every family in America a big tax cut for every kid who they have and are raising. It is so expensive today to have a kid and raise a kid. And Joe Biden made it so much worse. I mean, nobody could afford anything the last 4 years. Can't afford gas, groceries, can't afford your rent. We've got to give every working family, especially families with children, tax cuts. And I believe that a per child tax cut is one of the best ways to do this. So if you've got one kid, great, you're going to get a tax cut. If you got 3 kids, you're going to get 3 times that tax cut. You need it if you're a working family. So I think as we reward families, as we reward marriage, as we reward people who are having families, it just gives people more and more control over their lives. It encourages families. It gives people the wherewithal to have families and raise them the way they want to. And that has got to be, for those of us who are pro-family, that has got to be the centerpiece of what we're trying to do with policy in Washington, D.C. Boom.
And again, I just don't know who could oppose that. We appreciate you, Senator Hawley. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I cannot imagine the stress and the pressure that you all are under constantly 24/7 in the position that you are. But we certainly appreciate you and everything that you do. So thank you, Senator Hawley.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Gains for Girls podcast. Go to youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you will find all things Gains for Girls. Like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to share these episodes far and wide. It really, really helps when you do that. Let me know, whether it's through personal socials or in the comments section, how you are enjoying the podcast. And go to CozyEarth.com. Again, the best sheets, loungewear, pajamas. You will love it. I love it. There's a 100-night sleep trial. There's a 10-year warranty. You won't need it. Check it out. CozyEarth.com. Use my code GAINS for 40% off. And we will see you guys again next week. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. The fight to save women's sports and restore common sense is far from over, and I continue the conversation every week. So make sure to catch more content over here and subscribe to OutKick so you don't miss a thing.